What's up everybody, this is Danny. Today we're going to be comparing two of the hottest Motorola devices released this year. And the Moto X is no doubt one of the finest mobile phones to be released this year. And I've already given it the full review treatment, so make sure you go and check that out. And I will leave the link in the description section below. The Moto G, however, was just released. And it's a $179 no contract device. Yes, $179. With a quad-core processor and a 4.5-inch display. This may be the best prepaid option ever by any company as of today. And the Moto X I'm going to be showing you today is a customized version created in MotoMaker, and I will show you what color combination I picked for my personal device. So if you could have one of these underneath your tree, which one would it be? Let's unbox both and do a full comparison and see which one you like best. Since the Moto X has been out for a little while already, let's go ahead and put that one to the side and get to the newest device first, and that is the Moto G. And the Moto G was just released, and as I mentioned before, it is $179 for the 8GB model, and the 16GB model is $199. So for only a $20 difference, I would definitely shoot for that one, and this is the 16GB model that I'm going to be opening right here in front of you today. Remember, this is $179 without a contract, so you're going to be able to do this with prepaid. It is GSM only at this time, but I think there's plans to release CDMA models for Verizon and Sprint later on in the future, so stay tuned for that. So let's go ahead and take the Moto G out of the box, and it's pretty simple. It only comes in black. It does not come in white, but they do have interchangeable back plates that I will show you in a separate video later on. So let's go ahead and pop this box open. And the only thing you're going to see here is the lonely USB to micro USB cord. And that's all you're going to really get in this box, but you don't really expect much for $179. You just get some manuals here, and also it gives you a diagram showing you that the back plate is removable. But that's pretty much it, guys. That's it for the unboxing. So let's go ahead and move straight on to the device itself. There is the Moto G with the 4.5-inch 720p display. It looks like that the Moto G keeps the same design language as the Moto X. The plastic on the back feels a little bit cheaper compared to the Moto X, but man, if you really looked at them super fast, it would look like a Moto X. So speaking of that, let's go ahead and take a look at my customized Moto X. In MotoMaker, you can pretty much have an infinite amount of color combinations. You can pick a white screen and a black screen, but the back goes from anywhere yellow, pink, purple, blue. You can pretty much get anything. So let's go ahead and take this out of the box and see what color combination that I chose. First, let's take a look at the accessories that come with the Moto X. There's a little blue pouch here, and when you open that up, you get a Let's Get Started guide and some other documentation. We'll just throw that to the side like we do with every other phone. Next, you get a Motorola logo power brick, which is nothing special, and you also get a micro USB to USB cord for syncing and charging. Another little blue pouch here, and that reveals the Motorola SIM tool remover. Pretty cool. I like the way it looks. Let's take the plastic off of the front, and it reveals the 4.7-inch 720p display. A little bit bigger than the Moto G, but still 720p. And when you flip this over, you will see that I got the woven black finish on the back, which has a little bit of a carbon fiber look. Very cool with matte finish. Got a little Moto X moniker there, and you can get anything you want, like your name engraved in there. And I got the metallic red accents around the camera and the buttons. I think it looks pretty sleek. What do you think? What color combination do you like? Let me know in the comments section below. Alright, let's go ahead and boot these things up, and let's take a further look into what's different about these two devices. When looking at design, they both look very similar, and if you look at the button layouts there, where the power and the volume rocker is, and the placement of the speaker, and it's just pretty much the same. The camera, the LED flash, it just pretty much borrows design language from each other. The Moto G is just a cheaper version. Now on the opposite side, you will see that there is a SIM tray on the Moto X and there's no SIM tray on the Moto G. That is actually inside when you remove the back cover. And up top, the 3.5mm headphone jack and the secondary microphone, they're all pretty much placed the same. The screen is where the differences start. The Moto X has a 4.7-inch display and the Moto G has a 4.5-inch display. The Moto X has a Super AMOLED display where the Moto G has an LCD display. And you can tell the difference in between both when you take a look at them side by side. The Super AMOLED screen is going to give you darker contrast, blacker blacks, and maybe a little bit of oversaturation on the colors. But when you take a look at the LCD on the Moto G, it's actually very good for a $179 screen. You would think that this screen is going to be pretty terrible and washed out, but that's not true at all. It's actually even got decent viewing angles too, and the color replication is great on this 4.5-inch display. And I had no problems with it whatsoever, and I just expected it to be a worse display, but it's actually a very beautiful screen. Not as bright as you might want it to get, but that's about it. Now when you look at them side by side, look at the contrast differences there in the blacks. And also when you look at the whites, you can tell that the LCD has a bluer color panel and the AMOLED screen has more of a yellow tint. So the whites are not as accurate on the Super AMOLED. But take a look at how black the blacks are on the Moto X on the left, where you can't even tell where the screen and the plastic meet. But you can definitely tell on the LCD. So some subtle differences there. I think it's just a personal preference, but with the Moto X, it does have active notifications and it makes a huge difference where that AMOLED technology fits in, and I'll show you that later on. But here once again is the differences in the white colors there. See how blue the LCD is compared to the Super AMOLED screen? A little bit different. I think it's a personal preference there, but I'm not sure. I think I like the AMOLED screen just a little bit more. The chipsets powering them are also very different. The Moto X features the X8 computing system, which is comprised of a Snapdragon S4 Pro dual-core processor with a quad-core graphics chip and 2 other cores for contextual awareness and language processing. The Moto X is clocked higher at 1.7 GHz and has 2 GB of RAM. Now the Moto G has a 1.2 GHz quad-core processor that is a Snapdragon 400 and has 1 GB of RAM and has the slower Adreno 305 GPU inside. Let's run a quick Geekbench 3 score here, and of course benchmarks don't mean everything. Some phones benchmark extremely well, but their UIs are really stuttery and it's terrible, and the Moto X has proven that benchmark scores are not everything, because Moto X runs fantastic despite its dual-core processor. And look at it, 1254 on multi-core, 669 on single, and it's really not that great in the world of quad-core processors today. And look at how much longer the Moto G is taking, and 330 on single and 1112 on the multi-core for the Moto G. They're really not that much different here. Very surprising to me actually when I ran this, but on the real-world performance, you're going to see a difference with the Moto X. The batteries differ on both of these devices and none of them are removable, but the material on the back is going to depend on what backplate you have on the Moto G and what you pick in MotoMaker for the Moto X. Now, the difference with the Moto G is this backplate is removable. Just put your finger where the micro USB port is and go ahead and pull away. Very easy to do, but I cannot believe this battery is not removable. That just doesn't make sense to me if you're going to pull off a back. And I know it was for the interchangeable plates, but it's got a 2070 milliamp battery, and the actual battery life is very good. Since it doesn't have LTE, it has really good battery life. No problem with one-day use. Definitely, sometimes 2. And the Moto X has a 2200 milliamp battery, and it has a decent battery for its size. And of course, with the X8 computing processor, it does very well on battery as well. Definitely both of these are 24-hour devices in my testing, so I don't think the battery life is going to be a disappointment for either of these devices. The software right now also differs, where the Moto X already has Android 4.4 KitKat and the Moto G is running 4.3 Jelly Bean, but Motorola already said that it's going to roll out in January, so it should be out very soon, and by the time you watch this video, both of these are probably going to be running 4.4 KitKat. I've noticed that the Moto X has a little bit better phone call quality, but it might have to do with the placement of the mics, but I'm not sure about that. But the Moto X has fantastic phone call quality, and you can see that the front-facing camera here is placed a little bit differently on the front compared to the Moto G. And the Moto G also has an LED notification light, which the Moto X does not have. And the Moto G is also a little chubbier than the Moto X. To keep the cost down of the Moto G, there is no LTE included. So if you're looking for LTE, you're going to have to go with the Moto X. And the Moto G is limited to HSPA+, global, and US GSM. So it's pretty fast. It's very fast on the T-Mobile network. I was getting about 12 megabytes per second down, so not too shabby at all. As I mentioned earlier, the Moto G has a active LED notification light, but the Moto X uses the active notification system right on the screen. So when you get your text messages and notifications, they show up right there on the screen, and the AMOLED technology definitely helps with the blacks conserving battery life. Okay, Google now. What's the temperature outside right now?
It's 33 degrees in Spring Hill right now.
Sorry, Moto G owners, you don't get that cool touchless control that you get on the Moto X. Both of these devices are pretty snappy on day-to-day use, and a lot of that has to do with the stock build of Android on both of these devices. And yeah, there's Motorola Assist and a few little enhancements here and there, but it's primarily stock, and that helps it move along. Even with the Snapdragon 400 chipset on the Moto G, it performs like a beast, and it does affect gaming a little bit, and I'll show you that later on, but I don't think you'll be disappointed with the day-to-day performance on any of these devices. I was going to give you some image comparisons, but my Moto X camera is not working. I can't get it to initialize. I've already tried to wipe the cache partition. I did a factory reset, nothing works, so when I get an RMA from Motorola, I will update you on this situation, or you can always follow me on Twitter at SuperScientific. But the Moto X has a 10 megapixel clear pixel camera with an LED flash, so it has the higher megapixel count and the better sensor. And the Moto G has a 5 megapixel camera also with an LED flash. So I'm pretty sure that the Moto X is going to blow away the Moto G camera when it comes to image quality. The software is the same experience on both sides though, very simplistic, and the great thing about this is now that the camera app is a separate part into the Google Play Store, it's a separate app, so you don't have to get an OTA or get a firmware update or anything like that. Very simplistic controls, and now they've also added exposure and focus control, which is very cool. So very easy to take a picture here, very simplistic software. And I'll definitely give you an image update later on if you want to. So if you want that, then leave your comment in the comment section below and let me know if you want to see the comparison between both of these devices. The Moto X is also going to give you higher resolution video capture. So if you take a lot of video on your phone, then you're going to want to go with the Moto X. Let me tell you though, both of these devices that I have are fingerprint magnets, especially the black Moto G. It will have a lot of fingerprints on there, and you're gonna have to clean it very often. It gets grubby quick. So let's touch on the video gaming real quick. And the Moto G has the Adreno 305 GPU, which is definitely the weaker out of the two devices, but it's a very capable chip. I've played a lot of games on the Adreno 305 graphics chip before, and what you're going to notice is when you play video games like Dead Trigger 2, which is highly graphically intensive, you're going to see a few frame rate drops here and there, and it's not going to be as smooth, but look, it's perfectly playable. So if you're worried about gaming on the Moto G, I wouldn't worry about it too much. If you're a big gamer though, I'd probably go for the Moto X, for it has the Adreno 320 graphics chip. It's not the Adreno 330 that's out in a Snapdragon 800, but it's very capable, and you can see that the frame rates are faster on this. It's going to go for a much smoother gaming experience. So if I was to play a lot of games on my device, then I would pick the Moto X over the Moto G. Well, I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of the Moto G and Moto X. Sometimes it's good to show them together so you know which one you want to buy. They're for two separate audiences for sure, where the Moto X is still their flagship and it's going to give you all the active notifications and your touchless control and all the stuff that Motorola built up this year for their comeback. I mean, I think it's one of the best devices that was released in 2013. But the Moto G is something very special. It's a $179 device with very minimal sacrifices. I mean, the only thing you're really sacrificing here is LTE connectivity. I mean, you have a beautiful 4.5-inch display, quad-core processor, and a gig of RAM, pretty fluid, and it's got decent battery life. I mean, you really cannot ask for more when it comes to an unlocked device like the Moto G. So I definitely recommend both of these devices, so I hope that this review helped you pick which one that you wanted. So sound off, let me know which one you like best. Since the Moto X now is $99 or less on contract, is it more appealing to you now? Or is the Moto G gonna be the one for you where you can just pay $200 and get a 16GB version and just go into it SIM free? Make sure you give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and if you have any more questions, feel free to hit me up at Super Scientific on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any more videos like this one, for there's a whole lot more. And thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.